So, if you're working in the computer labs at ETSU or if you've bought Redshift yourself, we're going to talk about a different render engine now, and that's Redshift. So, Redshift is a little different. Arnold, by default, is a software renderer that has a GPU renderer built into it. Redshift is just a GPU renderer, and it mostly works the same. If you were to just jump into it and try to render, you'll probably figure it out. But this will help because a lot of the things are the same. Like the materials have a lot of the same settings, the lights have a lot of the same settings. But just to make sure, we're going to increment our old scene. Sure, and then we're going to delete some of this stuff and try it again. So I'm going to go ahead and delete my lighting. All right. I'll go ahead and leave my materials, right, as it is. And I'm going to go to Redshift. I'm going to go to Redshift Render View. Open it up on the other screen. And it currently has an old render in it, but if I hit this little play button here, you'll see it works very similarly, right? I'm able to tumble around and see an immediate update. Redshift, one of the things about Redshift is it renders really quickly. So right now, what we have though is like if I say that, and this Redshift render is still going, like it's still taking a while to render, and it's because there's two different versions of the renderer in this render view. There's the progressive render, which is what we're watching right now, right? And that's whenever I make a change, it starts rendering it. And the settings for this is actually really high. Like the quality settings are really high, so it's going to render it. It's going to keep rendering and rendering and rendering until it gets it as polished as it can, right? That doesn't mean that's what you're necessarily going to see when you go to render out your image sequence. And so what we're going to click instead is this button here. And this is going to do like a one-time render of an image based off of your settings in your render settings, right? So if I go to my render settings and switch this over to Redshift, it's going to be doing that render based off of those settings, right? So currently, it's set to medium quality, but you'll see that was still pretty quick. Three seconds for that. If I set this to like low quality and re-rendered, I rendered that in 1.94 seconds. However, there's no lighting in this scene. Like this is rendering with like a sort of this base, like default lighting. I'll go and set mine back to medium. Base default lighting. Everything is sort of evenly and awkwardly lit. And so it's still going to keep doing that until we start putting some lights in here. So usually what happens is while I'm working, I'll leave this progressive render on so I can make changes and I can see the results of those changes pretty quickly. And then every now and then I'll test out what my final render would look like. So just like Arnold, Redshift has its own lights, and it may actually, I'll say, obey or like listen to some of the other lights if you have them in the scenes. But I just went ahead and deleted all my old ones, and I'm going to start creating some new lights. And you'll see as soon as I create a Redshift light, everything changes. So that Redshift light came in underneath my my ship over here. I'm going to move that out. And you can see that just like the Arnold light, it is a plane with an arrow. Let's get framed up here on a decent shot. And then go back to my perspective camera so I can adjust this light. So as I pull it back, it works just a little differently, like how intensely bright it is from the very beginning versus the intensity and exposure here. I can still adjust those things, right? What seems to be a little different on Redshift lights is how scale works on them. So if I scale this one up, it is getting bigger. It's like the amount of light coming off the surface is multiplying too. So I'm just going to set up something similar to what we had earlier. I'll move this back, tilt it down a little bit, and maybe turn up my exposure just a little bit, just to get me a little bit of light there. I also, like, we have the option here to give the light a color or to do the temperature. And for me, I want to do temperature, make it just a touch warmer on this side, and then duplicate that light, Control D to duplicate it, and move it over to this side. Make it a little bit. And I'm going to turn down that intensity and exposure a decent amount. And we're just going to use this kind of as a fill light. And with it, my temperature, I'm going to go cooler. There we go. I think I would probably do it the other way around. I'm going to go ahead and pull down my exposure on this side a little bit. Maybe also turn up the heat on this side just a little bit. Yeah, and that's giving us a little bit of like a bounce light over here. Maybe it's a little too much for what outer space is really like, but I think this is a pretty appealing light setup. Just like with our stars in the past, though, I can also do a Redshift dome light, and it's going to immediately give me white light from all directions. The real difference in Redshifts is it makes it much smaller, right? And it really does not matter how big this is. It's projecting outward. The other thing is it's mainly giving us the top half of the dome because it realizes we probably don't need the bottom half, right? And so I can map a texture into this and go find my source images and find my star map again and hit open. And there we are. Now we have those stars again. I can turn up the exposure on this a little bit if I want to get a little bit more of the stars in it. There we go. And so this is giving me very close to what we were getting earlier in Arnold in Redshift. Again, just feel the need to sort of admire Redshift's flexibility here, that recognize that the spaceship has a standard surface material in it. Not only has standard surface, but standard surface. And then these arms this is an open PBR material, and this is an Arnold material, and it's still rendering all of them. So with that said, Redshift does have its own materials, right? So if I instead wanted to grab all these arm pieces, what did I just do? Grab all these arm pieces and right click and assign a new material. And I don't know if Redshift's materials are on here. Okay. Now let's just do it through the hypershade. Or go to hypershade, and I wanted to create a Redshift surface. So we'll do a Redshift standard material, I think it is. Graph network. And of course it deselected everything. And I'm going to assign that material. There we go. Really what I'm wanting to show you is that Redshift standard material still has pretty much all of those same attributes that we worked with on others, right? I think if I'm working in Redshift, I'll probably still try to use Redshift's materials. It has some of those attributes that work best with Redshift. But it's still very much the same. And I can't remember. Yeah, Redshift doesn't come with any presets. So it's up to you on which one you want to use if you're going to use Redshift. But recognize Redshift may not be on every computer. Like it may not be on your personal computer at home unless you buy it. It almost definitely isn't. It is and should be on most of the ETSU lab machines, So you can use it there if it's something you want to try. The biggest reason that people like it is because of how quickly it renders, right? And again, if I click that render button, we're getting a really nice render in 4 seconds. And so Redshift has that benefit in that it renders quickly and it renders nice. So it's up to you on which one you want to use. I just want you to have a basis in both of them.